you so much for the invitation. It's a real honor and a pleasure.
And can I just say, I love this book. Love it so much. I just mentioned before we went live that I sent you kind of an idea of questions I wanted to ask you, and now I've read the book and I've like got so much more. So I feel tonight is just hopefully going to be a conversation rather than an interview,
Yeah,
and we'll just see where it goes if that's cool with you.
100%. It is my favorite way to work. So let's do it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And the guys in the chat, so we've got the chat is made is going already. So some of the people have been reading Kate Northrup's book, which has been our book of the moment, Money, a Love Story. I know you and Kate are friends.
Yeah.
And I just listened to your podcast interview with her on your Infinite Receiving podcast yesterday, which was so good and
Oh,
juicy. And I just feel like this book is like a real it's a really good follow-up, like it's kind of a second parter almost, because for Kate's book I feel like a lot of us, me included, have been really like doing the work of going through those limiting beliefs and the past conditioning and working out why we feel like the way we feel about money and worth and finance. And then your book to me feels very much like okay, if we've done that work, hopefully we're started on that work, and the next step is like looking forward and what if and what's next and how do we level up to get there. Does that feel
I
right?
I loved it when you said that earlier on. I think that that is absolutely, I think that that's a real accurate description. So thank you.
Wonderful. And like I said, I've got loads of messages, loads of questions. One of which is, what is a quantum transformation coach? But can we just start by asking, I love to ask this, how are you today? Where are you? Just so we can get some context. And how would you describe your relationship with yourself right now?
I am good. I'm a little tired. I have been to West Sussex today, checking out a retreat venue. I'm hosting a retreat in June, and I drove 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back, and it is so beautiful. It's so, so beautiful. So I'm a little bit tired, but at the same time, feeling very, very full because, as you know, having read the book, retreat spaces, like what can happen in a retreat when you're in your own bubble for 3, 4, 5 days can be absolutely life changing. So when I've checked out the environment, I'm like, how can people's lives not change in this space? So I'm feeling great about that. And I am in Kent. I'm by the sea, 5 minute drive from the sea, which is one of my, I love being near water. That makes me very, very happy. And what was the final question?
How would you describe your relationship with yourself right now?
I'm good to myself. I have a lot of compassion for myself most of the time. So I'm good with me. Yeah.
Brilliant. I love that answer.
Mhm.
I love asking that question, and people always say they love it, but that it's hard to answer sometimes. Because, and also it changes, doesn't it? Even for you, I suppose.
Yeah, it changes on a day-to-day basis depending on what challenges are presenting themselves. But I think even in the challenge, even if there's stuff going on that I am not happy with, or I feel that I could have done better or be doing better, there's still always a huge amount of compassion. I know that I am, generally speaking, just doing the best, and sometimes it's good enough, and sometimes I can do better.
Mm.
Mm.
And how does it feel having the book out there in the world?
Oh God, amazing. It feels so great. And I think that I think I say this in the book. Like in the end, in order to get the book out there, I had to write it for me and basically pretend that nobody else was going to read it, because
Mm.
all the time I kept thinking about it getting into other people's hands. Everything that comes up within the infinite pillar of greatness, all of our insecurities, all of the self doubt, all of the wondering about whether I'm good enough, and all of this, that was in like loud and clear. So I had to get really, really strict with myself and just imagined that I was writing the book for me. It was going to become my personal manual that I would read daily until I died. Like, that was the story that I said in my head, because my belief and real knowing actually is that if I can be the embodiment of what I write in the book, I can't help but change thousands of lives, tens of thousands of lives, hundreds of thousands of lives, maybe even millions of lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, for those people who haven't read the book, I say throughout, like, I'm sharing stuff that in some areas that I've mastered, and in other areas I'm still learning, but things have made a profound impact on me already. And if I waited until I mastered it, I might not ever get to write the book. So it's very much, I'm a student of the work, even though it is my transmission.
Yeah. And I think that makes it much more applicable, because some of the terms, a lot of the terms in the book will be very new to people, I
Okay.
think. Like for me, they were like mind blowing, but in the best kind of way of like, either why didn't I know this before, or what the
Okay.
hell is she talking about, but I need to know more. Like
Okay.
those two kind of feelings. But
Yeah.
then like in the book you also share like your personal story,
Yeah.
and you're very human about that, about mistakes you might have made or regrets you have, and
Yes.
how you, and even in your official bio you talk about being a high school dropout. So I feel
Yeah.
like that's quite important for you, to for the people to know um, what's
Yeah.
possible.
I mean, it's important for a couple of reasons. And I think that I am just super conscious that I am not perfect. Like, you do not need to scratch very far beneath the surface to see my flaws. And so the idea that I would ever present myself in a way where people are like, oh my God, she's got it all figured out, and I need to aspire to her level of perfection, that completely feels at odds and would just create so much dissonance. And so for me, it's just really important to say, yeah, I'm a single mum. I've got 3 kids. I dropped out of school when I was 16, because for a long time I never admitted that. For a long time
Mm.
I lied and said that I had my A levels because I felt insecure. Now I realize that it's part of my superpower for people to know that my humble beginnings, and this is where I am. It's a permission slip for everybody else who is listening or reading along, who thought that because they did not have the best start, or because they have messed up, that it's not possible for them to live into their own unique greatness. And so
Mm.
all of our character flaws, when we're able to accept them and ultimately integrate them, become our biggest, I say, fly your freak flag. And that freak
Yeah.
flag is magnetic when you allow it to be.
Yeah, I love that, giving people permission, and maybe not aspiring to be perfect, to perfection, whatever that is. But it's like
Yeah.
we can definitely aspire to your levels of joy, because I think you just exude that. Like every time I see you, like anywhere online or in the book or whatever. We did an exercise last week actually, and it's from Kate's book, and it was about peak experiences,
Yeah.
and what words you would associate with these 3 peak experiences from your life. And my
Mm.
words were music, dancing, sunshine, sequins, vibes. And someone said, Emma, who I think's online tonight, said, it sounds like you want to live in a festival. And I was like, I
Yeah.
think Suzy Ashworth lives in the festival. I feel like every time I see you, you look like you're just celebrating life. And I'm like, yes, that's something to aspire to.
Do you know what? I am obsessed with that. And yeah, this morning I'm driving my girls to school and we've got the music up. It's probably a little bit too high, but we're enjoying the school run, and they're singing along to all of the 90s tunes. And I'm so aware of my own mortality. So when I can infuse fun, particularly with my kids, I'm aware that these are the memories,
Mm.
those types of school runs, hearing No Diggity, knowing all of the words to Poison, at 7 and no, at 11.
Priorities.
It's like, these are the things, they'll be the signs for them once I've gone and they hear that on the radio. It will be like, Mum's watching, Mum's here. And that's very important to me. So yes, I have created a life where that is more natural for me to be in that state than not. And for me, that is the frequency of receiving infinitely. That is infinite receiving in action.
Mm. And being in that state in the car on the school run, like it doesn't need, obviously it's lovely to be on a retreat and we'd love to do that
Yeah.
always, but it's like actually being able to access that state wherever you are is really important.
That's the secret. Yeah. And I think that we spend a lot of time thinking I'll be happier when, if I can just get this sorted, if I can just get that, if I can just lose the weight, if I can just have a little bit more, a little bit more money over here. And it's like, once we have our basic needs, once we know that we can pay the mortgage, once we know that there's food on the table, that becomes the perfect foundation for us to look up and see where are the gifts. And I also use the example in the book, like true mastery is regardless of the chaos, can I still find my center? Can I still find my gifts? It's not easy, which
Mm,
is why I say, let's aim to have our basic needs met. But the real mastery, the Nelson Mandelas, the Viktor Frankls, these are people that I use as people who are able to find the gifts in the chaos. That's again, that is infinite receiving in action.
mm. So to kind of, I suppose embodiment as well is about that feeling of safety, isn't it? It's telling you, and we've done a lot of work on nervous system actually, which has really surprised me. But as we've gone through the 2 months talking about emotional, financial well-being and wealth consciousness and things, a
Yeah.
lot of it has come back down to, do we feel like
Safe.
we're okay in our bodies?
I the reason part of the reason I've been able to get into the space that I'm in is because I have taken risks. I've taken risks with my desires, i.e., I've acknowledged what I want in my life. That can sometimes be the biggest flex. How many times does somebody ask you, what do you want? And you keep the real answer locked inside because it feels too big, because actually life is pretty good, because you can't possibly fathom how you could actually get what it is that you want. So why even voice it? And part of you stepping into receiving infinitely in your life is being willing to take the risk to own your desires. That's the first piece. And then the second piece is can I still be okay if I get them or not?
Mm, yeah.
You know, because a lot of the time we avoid saying what it is that we want because we can't handle the idea of being disappointed or feeling like a failure. And the reality is the material aspect of what it is that you want. We want to get you into a place where it has no bearing on whether you know that you're a good and valuable person. It has no
Mm,
bearing on whether you are okay or not on the inside.
yeah.
And that's big work.
Yeah, and you talk about that a lot in the book. It's about you're valuable, whatever. And it's like wanting, so kind of redefining wanting, or wanting from a place of I already have enough. But that'd be quite cool to do that, or it'd be very cool to have that. But it's like whatever. I'm already. This is enough, and I'm okay.
It's I am already enough rather than I
Mm,
already have enough. I
mm,
am already enough. And it is part of my natural, intrinsic nature to want more. And when I talk about wanting more, I look at it through the lens of, I suppose it's the Elizabeth Gilbert lens of creating, you know. And so my book is a creation, and it's safe for me to want to get my words out into the world. And I am still a valuable human being even if I am the only person who ever reads my book, you know, the point is that the creation is part of the evolution. It is part of the growth, and it's the same with money. It's like, okay, who, like, what would be cool? It would be super cool for me to be earning 5,000 a month. It would be super cool for me to be earning £10,000 a month. And who would I need to become in order to be a match for 5,000 a month? Who would I need to become in order to be a match for £10,000 a month? Who did I need to become in order to be the person who has written a Sunday Times best-selling book? And the game is, how much fun can you have in the becoming of that person? You know, the game is, who do I show up as tomorrow in order to be a match for £5,000 a month or £10,000 a month or however much it is a month? And the fun is who you're being in the moment. The outcome is the cherry on top of the moment. And so what that means is that even if I never get the cherry, I'm having so much fun on the way that it doesn't even matter. But it starts with me owning the fact that I would like to become something different, or I would like to create something different, or I would like to own something different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Guys, let me know in the chat if you're following along. I think so. And that, Suzy, that's like, you talk about the inside out. It's inside out, really, isn't it? It's an inside out job. But I am in, like, when you say one of the first steps is voicing it, like being brave enough to voice it. Do you mean like actually like physically voicing it and telling another person, or do you mean kind of getting it written down, telling the universe, like just kind of making it, like, I suppose, kind of telling yourself? Because I think some of us, and I think some guys on here as well, would relate to the idea of, we don't know what we want because we've never asked ourselves before. So not even that it's too big, it's just like, I don't know. Like, that's what got me into self-help in the first place. The question was, if you woke up tomorrow in your dream life, what does it look like? And I was like, I don't know. It was like, I can have a lie in. Like, it was like, so I think those kind of going back to like, how do we even start this process?
Yeah. I am a verbal processor. And so actually for me, saying stuff out loud tells me how much I believe that I am allowed to have the thing that I want, or I think it's possible. Because when I voice my desire, what I will notice is how my body clenches, how my bum cheeks will go, oh, how awkward I feel in saying what it is that I want. And when I'm feeling like that, I know that I'm not a match for it. And so I want to get to the space where I can say it and it feels so natural that it's like, well, of course this is happening. But it feels so natural. It almost feels like it's already been done. So I love to voice because I think that the body will tell us whether we feel like we're lying or not. However, know your audience. I have curated an environment of people where I can talk ridiculous, outlandish dreams, and people are like, yeah. But
Oh, cool.
in our lives, often we're surrounded by people who are not thinking big, crazy, outlandish dreams. And you might go to voice it because I've said, yeah, speak it out loud, and you're met with like strange stares, or you need to kind of have a reality check. And so it's really knowing your audience. And then your journal's great. Then it's you and your journal. You have that conversation with yourself and, you know, the universe, versus until you have found your communities of people where people are thinking bigger, you know, and are building you up. And I have to say that the reason why it is challenging for so many people in our real lives when we start to grow and evolve and change and start talking about our dreams and desires is that they are afraid that you are going to leave them. You know, that is what it
Even if
is.
that's not necessarily consciously, maybe it's like a subconscious, you're changing our agreement.
Yeah.
that-
You
mm,
are changing what's my role in your new life.
mm,
And so rather than allow themselves to kind of grow, what they do is try and hold you back frequently. And so it's being really mindful of your audience. And one of the questions that people always ask me is, what if I want to grow and my partner doesn't? And the thing that I
mm,
always say is it's our job to let our partner know, you know, I really love you, and this is the vision that I have for us. And then outside of that, you just stay quiet and you be the model for what it
yeah.
is that you're doing. You just get on and do the work. And and this is intimate partners, this is any relationship actually, the more you model it, and the more that you are a model for love, the more that you are a model for non-judgment, because we can get very judgmental when we're on our self-help journey. Oh, why can't everybody just be
I don't
like
know what you
me?
mean. Why can't everyone just read this book?
Yeah, exactly. So the more that we can come from a place of love, the more that we can be non-judgmental,
Hmm.
um, uh, and the more that we can start actually putting our money where our mouth is. So start creating, start doing these things. For the relationships that are supposed to grow and evolve, they can't help but get curious. They can't help but start asking, like, so what was that book that you were reading? What was that thing
Hmm.
that you were saying? But you model it rather than try and teach it.
Yeah. And then that's the kind of magnetism, isn't it, as well, that comes from when you're kind of on the
Yes.
frequency.
Yeah.
Like you talk about that, and I'm seeing it when everything's going well and I'm doing the work and stuff. People, the right people, kind of come to you, don't they?
100%. Like the examples that I use when I'm in the book where I'm literally, I remember being in Amsterdam a couple of years ago, and I walked to the shop and the woman was like, so tell me, what do you do? And it was so weird. It was like, I'm a coach. It happens so frequently. Being at the Isle of Wight festival, and people like, and I'm wearing jeans and a top, and people are like, "Can I take your picture? Can I take your picture? Can I say?" That's the frequency. When you say, "Oh, it feels like you're, just full of joy," that's the
Mm.
frequency, and it is magnetic, and people do
Mm.
want to get involved. They want a bit of what you're having.
Yeah. And you mentioned before when you were talking about being, you're not in alignment with something when your kind of body tenses,
Yes.
when your bum cheeks tense, I think is the quote. But if I'm like thinking about something bigger than I've ever thought before, like
Yes.
one of my favorite parts of the book, when I was literally like, oh, I don't think I can do that, is when you say, think about a figure, like a stretch
Yes.
figure for your next monthly salary, and then like times it by 100, I think you say.
Yes.
And then it's like, well, that's ridiculous. But you're just
Yeah.
like, well, the whole point of this exercise is it's a number that you never would say. But
Yeah.
obviously, when I first think about that number, I do clench, because it's like that I'm not in alignment with that yet. But
Yeah.
it's like, so I shouldn't listen to always like that kind of like tensing of my body. Doesn't mean leave it alone. It's not for you.
It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It means you haven't embodied it yet.
Yeah.
That's what it means. It
So to
means
keep
that you're
practicing,
and
keep
to keep
talking.
practicing it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I remember the first time I declared that in my lifetime I was going to build a business where I earned £10 million in a year. The first time I said that in front of an audience of people, I felt so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like like everything in me just wanted to I wanted the ground to, it was like, who the hell do you think you are to be talking about a number that big? And for me, that number represents the number of people that I desire to help. That's the level of impact that I desire to have in the world. I'm not attached to £10 million. It's £10 million worth of impact. But the more I said it, the less embarrassing it got. The
Yeah.
more I said it, the more I felt. I always feel like tingles in my feet. Like when I'm like properly in alignment with something, I feel the tingles in the soles of my feet. And it felt just more and more and more like me. like, of course. And
Mm.
so when you get to that place, you get to that place because not only are you saying it and you're feeling it in your body, but you're then starting to make decisions that are a match for the bigness of what it is that you're creating. So what I mean by that is I could say that I want 10 million pounds, a 10 million pound a year business, 100,000 times, and it becomes so natural that, you know, it's like, of course, but all of my actions are me acting like I'm earning 10,000 pounds a month. I'm
Yeah.
never, it's faith plus action that
Yeah.
equals miracles. So you've got to believe it. You can build up your self-belief muscle by first speaking it, but then acting in alignment with what it is that you have
Yeah.
said. So this is the same with money. It's the same with relationships. If you're like, I want a really beautiful, loving relationship with my, you know, husband, but every single time he walks in the door, you're like, you're not good enough. Why haven't you done this? I'm so
Mm.
irritated. You can say that you want a loving relationship, but if your actions are completely diametrically opposed to it, you're never going to get it.
Yeah.
So it's the same. It doesn't matter what it is that you want to manifest, but money's the same. If you're in a corporate job and you want a pay rise, you have to act like the person who is already at that pay grade.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember when I used to work for the Guardian newspaper, and they do promotions every now and again, and everyone would always be like, we know who's going to get the promotion, and everybody would be really pissed off about it. It's like, the reason that we knew that that person was going to get the promotion is because they already started acting like they'd already been promoted 6 months beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
They understood the assignment. The
Yeah.
assignment is what do I want, and then who do I need to be, and how do I need to act to be a match for that in my reality. Because the manifestation is always the last thing that happens. So first it's the energetic, like what is it that I want, then it's the action, and then it's the actual thing that lands in your lap.
Yeah. I love that advice. It's so good. So who do I need to be? And what would the person who was doing this already do? How would they act in the
What they
morning? How would they
do,
speak to their
how would
boss?
they feel?
How would they?
Exactly. And how would they feel? You know, if I
Mm.
knew that I was getting the promotion, how am I going to feel when I wake up in the morning? I'm going to feel good. How would I dress? I'm dressing like the person who thinks that they're all that and then a little bit some, because I'm pleased that I've got the
Mm.
promotion. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the person who wants to be earning more money in their business. You need to be asking for the sale
Yeah.
frequently. Otherwise, you're not a match for having more clients. And if you're not a match for having more clients, you're not a match for having more money. So
Mm.
this is where the nervous system work comes in. And this is where the really understanding why, acting from a place of knowing that you are creating this, whether it's going to happen in a month, a year, or 10 years, when you can start acting with a level of certainty that this is done, I know that I'm going to get the promotion. Maybe it's this time, maybe it's next time, maybe it's whatever, but I'm going to choose to be that person today. That's when we're able to act from this abundant frequency rather than I need this to happen now to validate my existence. I need this to happen now, otherwise it is not working. Like, we are on a stopwatch. You know,
Yeah.
if I can't see this next week, then you know, everything, I'm chucking everything out the window. That
Yeah.
that isn't the vibe.
No. And it's important, I think, to tell people that people understand that you can start this, you can learn this at any time. Like I've heard you say, you only learned this about 4 years ago, almost. It's like that kind of
I
inherent understanding.
Yeah, I think that I my I started my personal development journey when my mother passed away when I was 19. So there's been it's been a long period where I was doing the work. But I would say that 4 or 5 years ago is when I moved from intellectually understanding to embodiment, and
Mm.
life changed profoundly.
Mm. And do you have any advice on how to move, how to make that transition?
Yeah, the advice is like, do your homework. Do you know what I mean? You know, how many times have you listen to the book on Audible and you're like, right, I'm going to listen to it through the first time, and then I'm going to go back through it the second time, and I'm going to do all of the exercises. And then all of a sudden there's another book. So I'm just going to get the other book and I never go back and do the exercises. And the person in the book is like saying, you're going to need to do this. David's like, you're going to need to do this like 3, 4, 5, 10 times. It's
Yeah.
noticing whenever you're in a habit loop. You've built these habits up over a lifetime. Like, you've got to be aware, and then
Hmm.
you have to do the work to create the pattern interrupt.
Hmm.
So everyone's feeling attacked.
Well, you are like, I kind of feel like you're speaking to the right people. And also, I mean, we do the work though, guys, don't we? You do your homework. I know it. I know it.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah.
I say this from a place of like, I love learning, you know. I
Mm.
went from dropping out of school thinking that I was not intelligent, not creative, to then retraining as a hypnobirthing practitioner and a hypnotherapist and a psychotherapist, and being like, oh my God, I am not stupid and I love to learn. And so I'm a sponge. I want to soak it all up. But that leaves you with an intellectual understanding so that you can, chew the fat with somebody about it for ages. You can educate your partner on it, like, oh, you just need to do it like this, and your neighbor, you just need to do it like that. But until you are doing it, and how do you know when you're doing it? Basically, until you are the person who never gets triggered by anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
and that's acting as if you're the person who has done the work as well, isn't it? Like doing your homework,
yeah,
doing the like if I am a person who isn't triggered by much by anything, let's go goals,
yeah,
then I have to then that person would do the journaling every morning. That person would be more kind and loving and forgiving, and that person would forgive herself as well. So I think that kind of explains exactly what you were just talking about.
yeah. I think that there isn't one way. I think there are so many ways. But in my experience, when I feel like, oh, I've got this, and just kind of chill out, it's very easy to see how the old habits can creep back in.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I've become more aware of is that if we imagine our growth and evolution like is moving in a spiral, you are supposed to have the same limiting beliefs and blocks and patterns come up again and again and again. It's just that you're further up the spiral. And so you can see how much you have learned and how much you have grown by how quickly you're able to come to center, how
Mm.
quickly you can be triggered and then realize, oh, I'm activated right now. Okay, this is what I need to let go of. Because I often think that, especially with money, there's this idea that once I've got it cracked, I will never slip back. And
Mhm.
that actually has not been my experience. And my what has been true for me is that if I'm not money tracking, the more I receive, the fear comes in, like the more there is to lose. That's the same scarcity frequency there was when I had nothing and was walking around the park like shouting, I'm ready to earn £5,000 a month. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and there were times where I would think to myself, what have I done? What am I doing wrong? Why do I still feel fearful? Why haven't I cracked this yet? And it's not that I was doing anything wrong. It's just that I had grown and I had evolved, and the old pattern was coming up at a new level. And so then it's, how do I deal with it at the new level? Well, I take the tools and I take the wisdom that I have gained at the lower level. But if you've got out of practice, if you're not doing that, it's easy to backslide. So if anybody has had that experience, I want you to know that you're good. Just get back on the wagon.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. One of my friends who works in addiction, actually, she talks about, it's all about self-kindness and self-compassion, and she talks about, instead of saying I've had a relapse, she says I've had a lapse. Like, it doesn't mean you have to go all the way back to the beginning. It's like a lapse is like, that's just what happens. It's a bump. And it's like exactly how you said, you kind of, it's how quickly can you come back to your baseline, which is now here, which was there, but your baseline is here. So how quickly do you come back to that and use all this stuff that we've been learning as we've been doing our homework through the book?
Yeah, because your baseline is now, oh, this has happened because your baseline was, I am not worthy, so this is not happening. You know, where your baseline is now is, I know that I am a worthy and deserving human being, even though this bit has fucked up. Right, what do I need to do now to act in alignment with where I'm going? What do I need to do now to act in alignment with who I am and also where I'm going?
And I think there's a bit in the middle which I'm probably kind of just over, which is oh, I thought I knew I was worthy, but this has happened, so I obviously got it all wrong. What's the point? And then kind of going back to that. So I feel like, yeah, it's kind of faith, like you say. It is the faith that we're doing the right thing, we're on the right track, we're going the right way.
Oh, 100%. You know, before I came on here, I was texting a potential love interest and saying, you know, I don't know if you have the capacity, like you seem like really busy. And there's a version of me that could be like, well, the reason that you've attracted somebody who doesn't seem like they've got enough time for you is because your self-worth is really low and you need to do this and you need to do that. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, the gift in this is you knowing your greatness. And you knowing what you are worthy and deserving of. And the gift in this is that you've said what it is that you desire. Like, what do I want? I want the highest love and, you know, a beautiful soul partnership. This doesn't feel like a match for it, so I'm going to call it now, creating space for what it is that I desire. Every time there is a mess up, it's like, how quickly can I catch it and create space for what it is that I desire? That's all it is. Money, love, fun, whatever it is.
Love it. Someone's just written, the magic is in the space. I love that.
Yeah,
I love it.
100%.
So let's talk quickly about a quantum transformation coach and what that kind of involves, and then we're going to do a little exercise from the book. You're going to kind of talk us through the trifecta of wealth. I think would be a good things for people to go away with. So a quantum transformation coach, like, how would I know I need, if I just think I want some coaching in my life? How do I know, when would I be ready for you? Is what I'm saying. Like, do I go to like your kind of like standard life coach to start with, and then kind of,
I don't know.
like,
It depends whether you want standard.
That's such a good answer. No, I don't, of course.
Exactly. All quantum transformation means, my interpretation of this, or when I gave myself that title, it's massive change. I am ready to make a massive change in my life. And whether that is in your business or in your personal life, when you are ready for that, you come to me. And it is as simple as that. And often people want to talk about the energetics, or what does it mean, the quantum field. And for me, it's just really understanding that, and I do say this in the book, all of the energy that ever was and all of the energy that ever will be is here in the universe right now. That is the law of conservation. So everything is here. That means that we are living in a universe of infinite possibilities. Every thought that you have ever had and every thought that you are ever going to have exists in this universe right now. And that is really exciting. You know, the only thing separating you from what it is that you desire is you bringing the thought into your awareness and then you acting in alignment with the person who already has that thought. Can you act in alignment with it for long enough for you to receive the physical manifestation? When I went from £420,000 in my business to 1.2 million, it took a year and a half of me choosing to know that I was going to be a millionaire. And for a lot of people, it would be like, it's a really long time. Most people can't like uphold a New Year's resolution for more than 3 days. Do you know what I mean? So like that's the mastery. It's like, can I hold the frequency for long enough? And this is where letting go of the stories, understanding what activates us. What is it, the thing that knocks us off? What are the things that knock us out? And that is what I help people to do in life and in business.
And what are some of the biggest blockers? I was going to tell you a little story that you you were in my head while I was having a massage this weekend because I had such a lovely weekend. I went on a kind of surprise press trip, all expenses paid, to the south of France. I got really looked after, and it was so lovely. And I was a bit like, on the way there, I was like, oh yeah, I made it, living the life. Somehow I managed to manifest this. Well done, Tony. And then I was having this amazing massage, and all in my head, and this is a blocker for me. It's just like, why am I here? Why do I get to be so lucky that this is happening to me when most people will never experience this? And there's so much, and it's like the unfairness of the world sometimes weighs heavy on me. And I feel like I don't know how to shift that. And I don't know whether I do want to shift it, because I understand that I need to shift it in order to kind of call stuff in. But I feel like that's a tough one.
Oh, this is a big.
Is it?
I feel like I'm gonna give you my answer, but my thoughts on this are quite go way beyond where I go in the book, and these are just my, I suppose, philosophical beliefs. What I do say in the book is that, one of the pillars, in order to create infinite receiving in your life, activating these 4 pillars: 1, knowing your infinite greatness; 1, the infinite pillar of support, so allowing yourself to be supported; infinite pillar of love, so really opening up your heart; and then the infinite pillar of co-creation. And in the pillar of greatness, it starts with knowing your own greatness, and then the second part of that is seeing other people in their greatness. So frequently, when people talk to me about what it is that you've just said, there is a real sense of, how do I say this? I want to say this in like a sensitive way, because I know that what I'm about to say.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready. Use me as a case study. It's fine.
There can be a bit of a sense of, I feel sorry for you. My life is better than your life.
For not being me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's very subtle, but like, why am I so lucky and they're not as lucky, as me? One of the most powerful things that I know that I do as a coach is that I see every single person in their greatness. And an example of this is, I was in a club, not last weekend, but the weekend before, having a little day rave, and it was super fun. And I, it was the music was amazing, but the atmosphere, the vibe was a little bit heavy. And I remember thinking to myself, I am bigger than this. And what came straight through in my mind was bigger, not better. And then I looked at the guy who was walking past me, and I was like, and he's bigger than this too. And as I was looking at everybody who was in this club, I was like, and he's bigger, and she's bigger. And it was like, our energy is like limitless, and everybody's the same. It's not me here on my like spiritual, I'm bigger than, it's like everybody's got that. Everybody's got that greatness. That's the first thing. It's like, I never am going to view anybody as a victim. And that can be challenging for some people.
Yeah. So even if life circumstances would
I will never look at you
objectively
as a
seem to be
victim.
very unfair, no?
I will never treat anybody or look at anybody as a victim, because I don't think that it's helpful. How does that serve you? I can acknowledge your circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that that is shit, but I'm never going to call you a victim. And again, no, this is controversial stance to take, but if I look at my own life, the biggest tragedy that happened in my life was my foster mum passing away when I was 19 years old. That is the biggest gift that could have happened. And I say that from a place of the fact that my mum has been gone from my life for longer than she was in it now. And I still wildly, madly wish that that woman was here to see me, to see my kids, to see the life that I've created, to see the legacy that she has left. Like I would do any, I would give anything for a day. And losing her at the age of 19 is the reason that I am sat here. Because that being presented with how quickly life can change, how quickly it can be taken away, that was the wake-up call that I needed, because at that point in time I was wasting my life away. The human being that I was being was, I felt like she was a bit of a dirtbag. So without that tragedy, I would not be where I am. And that, again, that's the infinite receiving mentality. And I say that from a place of, I understand the shit that every single person will have a story. Every single person. And my genuine belief is that within that pain, within that heartbreak, within that chaos, disaster, however horrific, are the seeds for your phoenix rising, are the seeds for your growth, the seeds for your strength. So no matter how horrific it has been, I will never call somebody a victim, because I believe that that keeps them in the pain.
And what you're talking about, thank you for sharing that. What you're talking about is that the circumstances fundamentally changed you and created this next version of you.
The meaning that I gave
Yeah.
the circumstances enabled me to create something great from it. And I believe that everybody has the capacity for that. The other thing that I want to add, the kind of more, the bigger, my bigger, broader beliefs. Do I want to add anything else? I will, because
you're here now. You're here now.
It's just, I believe that every interaction is, I wouldn't say fated, but I believe that I believe in soul contracts. That's what I believe. I believe that there's always a lesson. And so so for example, like with my kids, I believe that they chose me. And they chose me because of my greatness, and they chose me because of their flaws, because of the lessons that they are supposed to learn in their lifetime, in this lifetime. I believe that I chose my foster parents, and I believe that I chose my biological parents. You know, I don't have a relationship with my biological father. I do have a relationship with my biological mother. I believe that I chose them for the lessons that I have got to learn in this lifetime. And there are still lessons that I resist, you know, which is why I don't have a relationship with my biological father, you know, because there's still some resistance there. There's still forgiveness there. There's still work that can happen there.
Yeah. But you're aware of it. But you're aware.
Well, we make our choices, don't we?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Thank you for my mini coaching session. I feel like no, it's really interesting. When you were in my head, and I was thinking, what would Suzy do? It wasn't that. So that's it. No, thank you for sharing that. Shall we talk about the trifecta of wealth just before we say goodbye? I'd love to. Guys, you might want to make some notes here. If not, then follow along in the chat. So page, tell you what
34.
page it is. 34. We've got it. Do you want to talk us through what the trifecta of wealth is and how we could maybe use it to kind of look at how wealthy we are in our life currently?
I think often when we talk about wealth, the first thing that people talk about is money, or think about is money. It's like, how wealthy am I? How much money is in the bank? And I don't believe that we can use how much money in that is. I don't believe that the measure, oh my God, how do I say this? How much money in our bank account is the measure of our wealth. I do believe that it is important. But I also believe that there are two other areas of wealth within the wealth trifecta that all add up to define how truly wealthy a person is. So we have our leverageable wealth, so that is the money that we have. And then we have our intrinsic wealth, and that is, how rich do I feel as a human being? You know, how connected do I feel to my higher self, to myself, to God, the universe, spirit, my soul? That is really all of the work so frequently that you guys will be doing in here. This is our emotional well-being. How safe do I feel on a day-to-day basis? Could I be in the eye of the storm and know that I am good? That is our intrinsic wealth.
Intrinsic wealth, yeah.
And then we have experiential wealth, and this is our experience of life. And often people will come to me and be like, I can work on the experience of life once I've got my leverageable wealth sorted. Like, once I've got my leverageable wealth, then I can enjoy myself. And like, for me, it's like, this existence would be absolutely pointless if all of the relationships that I care most about in the world needed to be put on the back burner in order for me to earn however much money that is I wanted to earn. You can't sacrifice your experience of life for money. If you're doing that, you're not truly wealthy. And the other thing that I see a lot, especially in the spiritual world, is like, I'm doing my intrinsic wealth, I am very spiritual, I'm doing all the, I'm cleaning my chakras, and therefore I have to denounce leverageable wealth. And it's like, no. We get to work on all three areas of the trifecta. We don't have to sacrifice any one individual area for any of the others. We get to work on those all at the same time. And when we are willing to do that, that is, in my book, quite literally, being truly wealthy.
Yeah. So leverageable wealth, intrinsic wealth, and experiential wealth. And you're saying you work on all of them at the same time. It's not even about kind of working out which one's out of whack. It's just, is it making sure that you give each they're all the priority.
I do believe that. There's this question that always comes up, is, can we have it all? And I do believe that we can have it all. I don't believe that we can physically do it all. And this is where the pillar of support comes in. And then once you have the pillar of support, so you have the people that you can speak to about your money, you have the places that you can go to do your spiritual practice, your intrinsic wealth. That can be you saying, it is a non-negotiable for me to start my day without 5 minutes of meditation. And I will lock myself in the toilet for 5 minutes a day until I get myself centered. Your experience of life can be, I refuse to start my day, no matter how much the kids are driving me insane, screaming about getting your shoes on. I will, I will do who do I need to become in order to create enough space in my morning that I can, and this is a very personal example, I can say 500 times, get your shoes on without without losing it. And I use it as an example because my experience was I would get up way too late, then try and shimmy the kids along who were not having it at all. Then I would get pissed off with them because they weren't putting their shoes on, even though I told them 15 times. So it's like, who do I need to be to improve that experience? So I don't need to think about my whole life, but I started with just like, I would like this piece over here to be a bit better. So I'm going to work on that whilst I'm also working on my business. If you're working, as I say, if you're in a 9 to 5, who is it that I need to be when I'm in my corporate job in order to be in the position to get a promotion or in the position to leave and get the upgrade? And I get to do that whilst I'm also hiding in the toilet, spending 5 minutes a day doing my meditation. Like, that's us working on all 3 areas of the wealth trifecta. And when you add in, which I know that you will have heard a million times, like, I love to review the day. What went well? What are the 3 things that I'm grateful for? And when you start noticing over time that you're doing the work in those 3 areas, we're like, I talk about 1 degree a day.
Yeah.
If you improve your life by 1 degree a day, in a year, you will have a completely different life. And that's how you can do that, by looking at the wealth trifecta and using it in that way.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Our time is nearly up. So thank you, everybody. Suzy, just as we close then, maybe could you share what was the one thing you would hope everybody would take away from this book by reading it?
Faith plus action equals miracles. Like that, I have been saying that affirmation, that intention for 13 years. I started saying it when my son was a baby, and it has literally changed my entire existence. I have it on neon signs all around my house. I've got it in paintings. I think I'm going to get a little tattoo on my wrist to remind me even more deeply that when you choose self-belief, self-belief is a choice. When you choose self-belief and you back yourself by taking aligned action, 1 degree a day, you will create a life where you get to experience miracle beyond miracle beyond miracle. And so if you only took 1 thing, that would be it.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the book.
Thank you for being here. Thank you guys for your comments and questions. Everyone feeling very inspired. Lots of lovely takeaways. Yeah, we really appreciate the time, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Take it easy.
Enjoy the rest of your week and good luck at the retreat. Sounds amazing.